Now we are going to talk about using retrieval styles and data transformations. We already know that if we add a tag to our trend and we right-click on it and go to configure, here we can customize it. We already reviewed the general tab, the target region, and now we are going to review the retrieval tab. Now notice that here on the retrieval style drop-down list, the option selected is style selected at option level, meaning I am not customizing the retrieval style for my tags individually. I am using the global configuration for retrieval. However, if we want to change this configuration, we have a long list of styles that we are going to review in some detail that can be applied specifically to the tag that we are configuring. So for now, let's cancel here and let's see where are these global settings. If we go to Tools, we select Options, and here is where we are configuring the settings for all the trends in the chart. Other than the Retrieval tab, we have the Colors tab. This one defines the order of the colors as we add the traces. Time zones for our data. Miscellaneous. So for example, if you want the trend always on top, or if you want to open specific documents on the startup. Here on the other tab, this one is very important. Maximum values to retrieve per tag. What if you decide, or if by mistake you end up retrieving data for the last year or for the last 6 months and you have millions of values there? You don't want your trend hanging trying to retrieve all this amount of data. This is like a safety limit. It's by default configured to 10,000 values. So back here to the Retrieval tab, notice that the Retrieval style selected by default is Best Fit 5. And if you have noticed, all the trends that we have worked so far display the name of the historian server from where the data is being retrieved, the name of the tag, and the retrieval style. And depending on which retrieval style you select, you have these two tabs, the main options and other. In main options, you can define a query row limit, so how many values do I want to be retrieved from the database. The interpolation type by default is the tag setting, but we can change that to stair-step or linear. And if you want some delta retrieval deadbands, time deadband in milliseconds and value deadband in percentage. On the other tab, we can select the history version. Remember, we talked about that, the latest or original. The rules, timestamp, how our cycles are going to manage that timestamp. Values to include in calculations. This is looking at the quality of the values. Do you want to include good and uncertain qualities, good qualities, or the default that is defined on the historian server? State retrieval. Are you retrieving data for a pump and you are only interested in when the pump was open? You don't care when it was closed. And transformation. Remove outliers, convert analog values to discrete, and snap to base value. Now these options change according to the retrieval style we select. So let's take a quick look at them. The first three, Best Fit 5, 10, and 15, are regular best fit retrievals where there are a maximum of 5 values retrieved per cycle, the maximum, the minimum, the first, the last, and the first exception, if any. But the difference is the size of the cycles. The first one uses 5 pixels per cycle, the second one 10, and the third one 15 pixels per cycle. Remember, we are here talking about a display where we are going to draw traces. Therefore, the cycles depend on the resolution of your monitor. The cyclic style uses cyclic retrieval with cycles of 2 pixels. Integral ad hoc is a combination. So for queries of 15 minutes or less, it uses best fit retrieval with cycles of 10 pixels, and for queries longer than 15 minutes, it uses integral retrieval. The averages from summaries or ad hoc and ad hoc, they retrieve average values for summary data or analogs and value state for discretes. The summary style is another combination. It uses delta for queries shorter than 15 minutes. For anything between 15 minutes and 8 hours, it uses average retrieval. And for anything longer than 8 hours, it will use cyclic retrieval with 1 cycle per pixel. Counter 20 is counted as we know it, but each cycle has 20 pixels. Counter on round periods doesn't use pixels, but even periods of times, 1 minute or 1 hour. Timing state %. For queries shorter than 1 minute, we'll use full retrieval, but longer than 1 minute, it will use the value state retrieval with % calculation. Timing state average, same thing, value state, but with average calculation. The round trip styles have two options, either % contain calculation or average contain calculation. And in any case, any query that is shorter than 1 minute will use full retrieval, and anything that is longer than 1 minute will use the actual round trip retrieval. And finally, we have the moving averages. The moving average is an average retrieval that is used to analyze a set of data points by creating a series of averages of different subsets of data. So the first one applies averages on sets of 12 values and a resolution of 5 seconds. The second one applies the averages on sets of 30 values with a resolution of 1 second. And the last one applies the averages on sets of 10 values and a resolution of 1 cycle per pixel. None of these styles will give us more options than the ones that we already have here. However, if we select Custom Style, everything changes. And here under the Retrieval Mode drop-down list, we have all the known Retrieval Modes. And depending on which one we select, the options will be different. So for example, for all the Retrieval Modes that use cycles, let's say minimum, we have the option to use manual cycles. And those manual cycles can be defined by a number of cycles, or I can define a resolution for them. The interpolation type here depends on which retrieval mode we select as well. So if we select integral, for example, we know there is an interpolation that we can define there, and it can be stair, step, or linear. These delta retrieval deadbands right now are grayed out because they are only enabled when we select delta retrieval style. So here we have the time deadband and the value deadband. And then if we go to the other tab, notice that the state calculations are grayed out. Why? Because they also depend on the style. So here if we select value state retrieval mode and we go to the other tab, now we can select a state calculation, minimum, maximum, average, total %, and the contain ones. And we can define the state for which we want to do this calculation. So for example, if I'm talking about an enumeration, I can say I want the state when the valve is on transition. And that one should be a valid state on my tag. Also, if we select round trip, for example, the options change because remember, only the contain ones are supported by round trip. If you don't want to apply these settings to all the traces on your trend chart, you can cancel here. Go back to the tag list, select your tag, right-click, go to the Configure menu, and whatever you select here on the Retrieval tab will take precedence over the settings configured on the Options dialog. And notice that all the Retrieval styles we talk about are here, and as soon as we select one, the same settings are available here as well.